Rishi Sunak's plans to increase nursing and medical training places, to have some sort of apprenticeships, to have physician and nursing associates, to increase NHS staff on the front line by 2037 is admirable, but is not going to do very much in the immediate future, I'm afraid. And while on the one hand it's great to have people doing apprenticeships and training, I think what we need to do if we're going to change the NHS is to have apprenticeships and interns who are going to deal with the overreaching, overarching, indulged bureaucracy. We need people to go in and trim that bureaucracy and also make sure there's one bureaucratic system for the whole top-heavy behemoth. And without that, the NHS is still going to be struggling, whether we have more doctors or nurses or what, because nobody really wants to work for an organisation that doesn't function, that doesn't know what it's doing, where its left hand doesn't know what its right hand is doing. If you go to a hospital for treatment, and if, let's say, as in my case, I went to a hospital for cancer treatment, but because I have a blood disorder, haemophilia, which is treated in another hospital, the Coventry Hospital had to liaise with the Oxford Churchill Hospital, and they didn't. And the evidence is there. And they gave me the wrong drugs, and 2 weeks after my surgery, I opened up because I hadn't been given the proper drugs to treat my blood disorder. And so what happened was routine and utterly predictable, and I was then back in hospital for a further 10 to 15 days. And all of that was unnecessary, and it was painful, and it was frightening, and it was completely the result of bad bureaucracy. I wrote a letter to the head of the Coventry Hospital, and I got a 10-page, completely diatribic letter back, which actually admitted mistakes were made, offered no solution, and really the only option is to take the NHS Trust to court. Well, why would I want to do that? I want to help the NHS, not burden it. And the only reason I called them out was to try and improve the quality of their service. It doesn't improve the quality of their service. It just makes them more defensive, and it makes extraordinarily the people who are doing the bureaucratic work in that case are not the bureaucrats, but the doctors and the consultants. It's utter madness, utter madness. So the bureaucrats, who famously seem to be paid significantly more than the people who actually do the real heavy lifting in the NHS, raking it in, and they do nothing. They don't answer these letters. They delegate to people who are in the middle of surgery, taking them off surgery to write rubbish. And we have to trim these people. Literally, we have to make them redundant, the bureaucrats. If the bureaucracy was trimmed and reduced by, I don't know, halved, and if there was one computer system on which everything was logged, the NHS would work better. And that probably would be a more valuable investment of time and money than, in fact, increasing the number of doctors and nurses. Well, actually, the number of doctors and nurses needs to be increased because we can't retain them, because nobody wants to work in this misery where you simply don't know what you're doing and nobody takes responsibility for what they're doing because the one hand doesn't know what the other hand is doing, as I suggested. But good initiative, not enough. If I was marking this in A-levels, I'd probably give Rishi a creditable C, but not a B. And probably not a D. It's not a fail. It's a C. It's a C. Quite a high C, actually. It shows promise. But it's not a top university place.